through, and I had to. I actually was at the end of practice today, and I had to sprint. I had to drive back real fast because I have a generic generator that didn't want to
Mm,
cooperate, kick on
yeah.
for my sump pump. So,
Okay. All right.
and then, but yeah, it came back on us. We're good to go.
Right on. All right, y'all. We're going belly to belly tonight with Coach Matt Hill from Edinboro University. Coach, how's it going tonight?
Doing great, man.
Awesome, awesome. So, like Jimmy said before we got on here, a couple of little through lines for you. We recently had, I believe, one of your former teammates in Coach Jim Gibson on.
Oh yes, Jim Gibson. We go by. I call him Gibby.
Yep, Coach Gibby.
Yeah. Yeah.
Are you guys linked up for a match yet?
We actually are. We're going to travel down to Lexington, Virginia, early December next season, and we're going to scrap with my old teammate Jim Gibson. Excited to do it.
Awesome, awesome. And so, yeah, so Coach, we wanted to have you on tonight. We feel like a lot of times in the wrestling media space, there are a small handful of teams that get a lot of attention and notoriety. And Jimmy and I like to not just acknowledge those teams, but to reach out to coaches like yourself and schools like yourself and highlight some of the mid-major schools, if you will, D2, D3, JUCO, that sort of stuff, because Jimmy and I were lightweights. I was 103 pounds as a senior, and Jimmy was 112 pounds as a senior, and no one really guided us. That if we really wanted to wrestle in college, there was a school for us to wrestle in college. So our goal with the podcast when we have the wrestling coaches on is to highlight that and shed light on the fact that there are a lot of 4 year and 2 year schools where if you really have the desire to continue your wrestling career after high school, there's a school out there for you. So we like to highlight those schools and give a spotlight to some of those schools. And we're both Jersey guys, so we know that
Nice.
New Jersey guys have some street cred when it comes to talent and that sort of stuff. And we like to get those wrestlers the information so that they know that it's not five or six schools, that there's a lot of schools around the country that they can go and continue their wrestling careers.
That sounds awesome. Yeah, lots of opportunity out there. Just got to get exposed to the right people and make sure they know there's other opportunities for them to go wrestle and have a good college experience on the wrestling mat and academically.
Yeah, coach. And one thing about Edinboro that's always stuck out for me, back in the day when Flow Wrestling first started, when Martin was running it, he did a, behind the scenes or like a BTS on the program, like during the season, and he went to the dungeon, I believe you guys call it, and that always stuck out to me, and always I always rooted for Coach Flynn and you guys because that was always something cool to me, and it really just highlighted that yes, it's a Division 2 school, but you have Division 1 wrestling, and there's guys that have always gone to Edinboro and have got it done. You guys have always had good wrestlers coming out of that school.
Yeah, I was actually the strange thing is I remember Martin coming in for that video. For some reason, I remember me and my teammate Deontay Penn. We weren't some reason I think we had some kind of other event going on. We couldn't make it to that practice that day, but that was like one of the first ever flow like videos that Martin did. So I vividly remember that. And then when it came out, I was like, oh man, I wasn't actually there for that day, which is very rare for me to miss a practice or be doing another engagement. But yeah, for sure. The Flow has they were one of the big reasons why Edinboro came out of the small school wrestling, big time wrestling, and they exposed it well. So it was a cool start to the beginning of Flow sports and Flow wrestling in general. So
Yeah, I might be speaking out of term here, but I feel like that you guys are doing plate pushes in that video because I remember that it was either after that or Bloomsburg when they went to. I was like obsessed with doing plate pushes, like putting the towel on, going on the basketball court and doing plate pushes.
Yeah, I believe Flynn had some kind of circuit set up for the team, and they were running down the hallway, and the other guys, pushing plates down the hallway, and then everybody else was in the wrestling room doing some kind of workout. So I do remember that. So
So, Coach, before we get underway, let everyone know where they can find you, your socials, the team socials, everything like that.
yeah, I couldn't tell you the exact names of, the at whatever names, but, Edinboro Wrestling, Instagram and Facebook and Twitter are, all very readily available if you search them. But, for the most part, we have all those platforms rocking and rolling to get your most up-to-date information about our program. So go search it and you'll see what Edinboro Wrestling is all about.
Right. And in doing some research for this podcast, I learned that you were coaching at Kent State for 8 years. You were an assistant coach. And during that time, you were driving 70 miles both ways. And you also had a landscaping business. So my first, because our father had a landscaping business for 30 years. So Rich and I know that grind. We know it's not a cake job. We know it's hard. You're out in the elements, and then you were going to wrestle and practice. So my first thought, and you were driving 70 miles both ways, my first thought was, wow, you must really love wrestling.
Yeah, I do love wrestling. So I didn't know if I was, really love wrestling or just that dumb, but no, it was just one of those things where I had goals and I had unfinished business in the sport, and I still do. And it's just, once you're in the game, it's hard to get out of. And, I really love coaching and motivating kids. And coming from a program like Edinboro, I thought I had a lot to offer. So I ended up right out of college. I ended up going to Kent State, and I was actually a GA there for 2 years. So I was really around the program from almost like 10 and a half years. And then I was there was almost like a full year I wasn't coaching in college, and I was back in the Pittsburgh area, coached some high school, did some, substitute teaching and some, other things. But I also had my lawn business going on at the same time. And it was looking back, it was pretty crazy, the amount of time and, in the car, coming back, cutting grass for 72 hours. I mean, well, it's two, whatever ever extra time you had, you were cutting grass, mowing lawns, and, doing landscaping, and then, getting back to practice. So it was a cool adventure, and, I wouldn't take it away for anything. It was a great learning experience. So, the funny thing about it, I started my little landscaping business when I was like 12 years old in my neighbor's yard, and I had 3 lawns, and then you keep building it and building it. And I just kept doing it because it was one of those things where my mom's like, well, you got to get a job. And I just said, well, I got a job my first real job was at Panera Bread in Cranberry Township. And I got my first paycheck, and I was like, Mom, like, I'll keep working there, but if I get like 3 or 4 more lawns, can I not work there anymore? And she says, deal. So that was a cool little trade off. So I just went around and asked more people to cut their grass. And if I can work, a quarter of the time and make triple the money, that was a good trade off for me. So, and and it allowed me to train and wrestle and do all that stuff too. So I kind of made it customized to my lifestyle, and was able to use use the landscaping job to bolster my wrestling career and essentially put me in a position I am now. So
And coach, when it comes to Division I wrestling, there's a limited number of coaching jobs that are available, and you are now coaching at your alma mater. What is that like? Is that a dream come true to come back to the borough and take over the program, and knowing what the history of the program?
yeah, it was very surreal when the transition happened. It was kind of like, oh man, this is really happening. And I was ready for it. I was just you know, the speed of it happening was one thing. And then the other thing was like, you're filling arguably the biggest shoes in, college wrestling from a standpoint of success with the resources that person has, and meaning Tim Flan, and obviously Bruce Baumgartner was here leading the athletic department at that time too. So you're filling these enormous shoes, and that was surreal as well. And just trying to understand, how to be successful in today's world of college athletics, and going into a situation where it was going to be tough and challenging, and it still is, but with a lot of grace and understanding that you have a big responsibility to do the best you can. So
Is Bruce still in the area?
Bruce still lives in the town of Edinboro. He's very busy with USA Wrestling as their president. But yeah, Bruce is a supporter. He helps out as best he can, and I talk to him, every other week or every once a month at least about wrestling and the program and fundraising and stuff like that.
So you bring up the history and rich history, Josh Koscheck, Sean Bunch, your
Mm-hmm.
teammate and workout partner, Gregory Gillespie. Do you educate the kids on the program? Do you make sure they know some of the legends that have come out of that program?
Yeah, it goes without saying because a lot of the recruiting process is with those stories and those histories of things, and letting them understand the type of wrestlers that came through here and how they did things, and what the dynamics of their success entailed and how they became successful. But those reminders of this individual and what he did and how he displayed his work ethic and how he became a leader, those things are always reminded on the walls of the wrestling room, on the outside of the walls, with the all-American plaques and the posters that we have of over the years and stuff like that. So it's a very vivid and strong reminder of what Edinboro wrestling is about. And those guys, I have a lot of good stories. I tell them how this guy did this, and passing down stories from Flynn and Bruce, and another rich wealth of knowledge would be Mike Deanna, who brought himself from Iowa to start us as a Division I program, with Bruce at hand with him, at that time frame. So there's a lot of cool stories, and we have reunions and stuff that bring back those guys, and it's really fun to watch them tell their stories and explain like how things occurred and how they became successful.
Well, what were some of the traditions that you came through the program with that you've tried to keep, and have you added any?
The one there's the some of the traditions of the end of the preseason, usually do an 8 mile run, and they used to call it the Bruce's house, because the all the way back towards the one long hill up and down it was where Bruce used to live. So that's one of the traditions. And yeah, really, from my standpoint, my memory of training here at Edinboro is like we just worked really hard, and we worked hard, and we had a good lifestyle. We also enjoyed our college experience as well, but a lot of hard work and dedication and discipline. Some people didn't understand the type of hard work we did and thought it was mindless, but it was very calculated and very, very to the point of what we were trying to succeed. And in those moments, you're trying to understand why and how you're doing things, and it all made sense when you got older. And now as a coach, it does make sense too. So but some of the new traditions, we do like a turkey ball, like literally it's a PVC pipe with a tennis ball, and I'm the all-time pitcher. So it's like a baseball game almost. We do that like Thanksgiving break, and maybe once in the preseason and in the postseason too. So it's a blast, and guys have a good time. We try to go paintballing now once a year, and just keeping good team camaraderie. Um, events and activities to keep these guys engaged and making sure they're having good experience while they're here as student athletes.
Coach, at Edinboro, being that you guys are the Division I program at the school, and there's quite a few Pennsylvania schools that are like that. Uh, do the wrestlers have a little bit more swagger about them because they are Division I athletes as opposed to the rest of the athletic department, or is it all for one for all kind of mentality?
um I would say we really kind of preach being gracious and understanding that you have nothing to prove. You're a Division I athlete. amongst a lot of other athletes. And does it matter that you're Division I or Division II? I don't think. I think most of our guys are pretty level-headed kids, and they just want to compete against the best and prove themselves. Is there any arrogance or any kind of like I'm better than you? I don't think so. I think we just want to we all when I was here and continuing today, it's like you kind of have a chip on your shoulder, and you want to prove yourself that I can be the best regardless of the resources and the things that we have here. So that was always like kind of like our superpower in a way. At least when I was wrestling, and we still want to bring back those mentalities and traditions towards your squad, and let them understand that there is a way to be successful. You just got to maybe work twice as hard as the other guy, but in the long run, it helps out.
And being that it's a smaller school in the Division I grouping, what sort of athletes are you looking for? You're looking for those top tier guys coming out of PA and Ohio, or are you looking for guys that maybe haven't kind of reached their maturity and you can see that they've got some more potential?
Yeah, it's a great question. You know, Coming into this job, it was you want to get the best student athletes you can, kids that are going to be invested into what you're trying to accomplish here. You know, some of the characteristics and things that we know that are successful is a small town kid that's used to this type of environment, that is going to like the outdoors, is going to doesn't need a big time football or giant city lifestyle. They want to be simple, they want to be focused, and they want to focus on their academics and training at the same time. But geographics is important, getting the kids that are not too far from home, but also we're in a really good hotbed of wrestling with Western Pennsylvania and Northeast Ohio. So we have really good recruiting opportunities. And are we going to get the number one guy in the country at each weight class? No. But we're going to get the guys that want to aspire to be that. We're going to get guys that, 2, 3 time place winner in Pennsylvania, looking to win that state title. And, are they Fargo champs? Are they Fargo All-Americans? We want them to be, but we're going to try to foster their talents and their desires and make sure they are as successful as they can be. So, we had one of our incoming guys this past weekend beat a really good guy, probably that can place at NCAAs this year, as a sophomore in high school. And we happy to have him. Of course we are, and we're always looking for that guys. But we saw something special in him, 2 years ago, and we got to get this guy. So now he's really flourishing, and hopefully he can be a big impact for Edinboro wrestling over the next 4 or 5 years.
I've been talking about the kind of recruits that you like to look for and kind of what you're trying to gauge. What is your pitch? What separates Edinboro from other schools? What majors does it offer? Do you set kids up with internships, anything like that?
Yeah, I mean Edinboro is a liberal arts school. We have a lot of general degrees that range from business to nursing to criminal justice to exercise science and phys ed. Our cell is you can be wrestle, small school, but wrestle big time college athletics. We had Penn State, Ohio State, and Rutgers on our schedule this year. Ohio State's coming in next year for us. So that are you are you going to compete with those guys year in and out? Probably not. But we're gonna go and try. We're gonna go and give our best towards those challenges. But when we sell it, we sell that you're gonna get a great education. We're going to, be very family oriented and help you out, with all the small stuff. We're not going to toss you aside if things aren't going, the best right away. And we're going to make sure we, foster you as a fighting Scot and that you have a great experience here as a student athlete. So, Edinboro is a special place. It has a very, very small town feel, and it's very family oriented, and we make sure guys understand the environment of the outdoors and having fun in the summertime we kind of have like a resort type town when the summer comes around, and the guys really embrace that and get involved in those activities and that culture.
You mentioned the small town kind of aspect of it. Do you guys sell out the gym for home matches?
Not every home match, but when we have a big team come in, and right now my success level isn't where I want it to be, and that's the goal is to get, this community rocking and rolling and making sure they come out and watch really good wrestling, at a traditional powerhouse, and that's our goal. So, but yeah, we really value the community and their involvement in our wrestling, and we have great wrestling in this area, and with the high school program with General McLean and Coach Cook, what he does, and we got a really good environment to make sure things are fun and entertaining when it comes to the sport of wrestling here at Edinboro.
So bringing up the success level, I'm curious to what your thoughts are on that kind of anecdotes. Do you have guys redshirting? Do you have guys that are injured? And we also know that in wrestling, there's two seasons. There's a dual season, and then there's the individual season. Is there a separate mindset like, hey, we get a fresh start going into the MAC, and what are you saying to the guys going into the MAC?
Yeah, I mean, just in the status of our program right now, it's definitely not where I want it to be. We have guys that are redshirting and developing right now. We have guys that can be competitive at the national level right now, but they will be in the lineup next year. We're looking to break them out on the scene going into next fall, so we're excited for that. Yeah, that is a big factor. Like, there's a dual meet season, and there's your postseason, and a lot of people can forget about, maybe you didn't do too well with the dual meets, but all of a sudden you have two All-Americans at NCAAs, and you preach that to them and let the kids understand that anything can happen, and regardless of your season that you had, you can really turn it around and make sure you make the most of your opportunity heading into the postseason, especially in March. And it's a magical time for a lot of wrestlers to develop and prosper, and maybe manners they didn't see themselves. So it just takes a little belief and a lot of hard work.
Where is the MAC at this year, Coach?
It's actually Kent State, Ohio, Kent, Ohio.
Okay. Going
Yep.
back to your old stomping grounds, your
Yep.
intermediate stomping grounds.
Yep. So yeah, no, I had a lot of good times at Kent, Ohio.
You guys scrap with them?
We didn't duel this year. I think we've had a few duel meets became before since I became head coach. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What is the undergraduate population at Edinboro?
Um, well, we did an integration with Clarion and Cal U, all state schools. And there's like a full, now that we're integrated, we're around 12 to 13,000 students total between the three schools. At Edinboro, it's kind of a moving number over the years, but I would say we're right around 4,000 kids on campus.
Okay. And you
Yeah.
all are right on Lake Erie, right? Or pretty close to it?
We're not right on it. We are about 25 minutes south of Lake Erie, in downtown Erie. So, I mean, you can get to certain parts of Erie in 20 minutes and other parts in 30. So it just depends on what part you're trying to go to. But, Presque State Park is about, if you go up on the parks, it's about a 30-minute drive to get there. So
You still get that lake effect though, right?
we get lake effect, but, this winter has been very mild for Edinboro winter. It's been, we're pretty much about the same as what Pittsburgh would be. So,
And y'all are loving it, right?
I mean, it's nice. I like the snow. I don't, I definitely enjoy the snow and the winter festivities. It's definitely, like, during COVID, we had a lot of good winter weather, and it was, nothing was going on, so we got to go out and do some things that we never really, wrestling season got in the way, but do some skiing, a lot of sledding, hiking in the winter. So it was a really cool feel for that. But we had a decent winter, like two maybe last year wasn't bad, but to be honest, nothing compared to when I was a freshman here in college. I remember we had my freshman year and my sophomore year, we broke the record for total amount of total uh, snow. So, but yeah.
Coach, one thing we like to ask coaches, and one thing we figured out once we started this show and started talking to college coaches, is when you're the head wrestling coach, you have to worry about a lot more than the actual wrestling. It's like running a business, and we call it the CEO. What does your CEO position look like at Edinboro?
So yeah, great question. I was just actually talking to my athletic director about this today about, sometimes you get frustrated because you got to do a lot of things that like, you like to just be on the wrestling mat and teaching wrestling and running drills and getting down and dirty, which I do a lot. I probably wrestled. I just turned 40. I probably wrestled more this year than I have in like I've always wrestled, but as collectively this year I've wrestled a lot with my guys more so and I enjoyed it. It's not maybe because we're in a position where we're rebuilding again and trying to get things going. But for the most part, really, you gotta play the hat of a lot of things at a small school like this too. With comparable to other big schools, you have to have your hands in pretty much everything when it comes down to just getting the laundry done and making sure the mat's clean and being the equipment manager and stuff like that. Now, do we have people to help me out with that? Yes, but just generally speaking, there's a lot of roles that I have to play, and fundraising and building relationships with alumni and donors and stuff like that is always a must and a continual job. And then that's not even taking the account of uh, your recruiting, and stuff like that. So that's a that's a big factor. So the CEO mentality, I would say I'm pretty much a hands-on type guy, and I want to keep everybody involved and keep everybody engaged with what I'm trying to accomplish, and you know, having the best communication possible with my assistants and stuff like that.
Speak of being 40, but being on the mat more this year than you had since you took the program over. What does that look like for you? Do you have to check your ego sometimes? Do you have to give up a takedown here or there, or go?
Um, I know my limits, but I definitely don't like giving takedowns up, and I want to compete with my guys. And there's good days and bad days, just like if you're an athlete. So I think there's a lot of cool values in being able to still wrestle with your guys and push them just as best you can. So obviously I'm not jumping up and doing sprints right after a live go or something like that, but I'm trying to lead by example. And you get rough here and there. You do a lot of things that like challenge the guys so they understand like, hey, you can still compete at a high level, and understand that this old guy might be beating you up, but you still got a lot of good wrestling in you this season. Let's make sure we're staying focused. So but I get I think it's a great part of the job too, just getting to wrestle and compete and stuff like that. I did say the other day I finally learned how to do a good duck under after 40 years, so I'm pretty good with my duck under now. So, which might sound pretty funny from being a slow, like squatty body guy. So
You get in the room a little bit earlier to get some extra warm up time in, or what?
yeah, now I'm a cold turkey guy. Just roll my
Okay.
neck out, do a forward roll, backward roll, and then start wrestling. So. But yeah, it's fun. I think it's crazy because when you're wrestling as a competitor, I think that's one of the things I like to kind of preach to my guys is like, don't put yourself in a box and continue to learn. And we're always learning, but and there is a very good value in being a repetitious guy and you know continually to do a lot of reps and stuff like that. But our guys need to learn how to flow and spar and have more of a creative mindset towards their wrestling as well. So it's crazy how much you learn and develop wrestling after you're done competing because your mind is set differently and you're trying to learn the sport so you can pass it on to your athletes. So
Something to be said for experience.
yeah, experience is key. Yep.
Jimmy used to have a teammate that didn't like to warm up, and when the coaches would get on him about warming up, he would always say, "Coach, you don't warm up for a street fight."
I know. I was like, if you're in the woods and the bear is chasing you, you don't have to stretch before you start running, or have to fight it. So yeah.
Coach, back to that CEO position and that point. Uh, you mentioned you love the X's and O's and being on the mat and rolling with the guys. Do you have, outside of the X's and O's and that sort of stuff, do you have a favorite task in that CEO role? And on the flip side, do you have a least favorite?
I like grassroots recruiting. I love going to, events and going to living rooms and high school practices, building relationships and, kind of having that like, even if I have like a good kid that, I might not get, but I'm gonna still go after him. And it's kind of a challenge for me. So I like going after kids and having that, like building that relationship and making it and my heart's broken all the time, but that's part of the business. Making that kid feel bad, saying, "No, coach, I'm gonna go to this school," or "Hey, I'm going another direction," and it's all good. It's all positive things. It's just more so, trying to do your best to sell the program to that student athlete and hope they buy into your vision. So that's I love that part of it. And yes, is recruiting tough and sometimes annoying. Some coaches hate it. I kind of like that aspect of it, but I do know I have limited resources and I have to, I have to focus on other areas of my program as well. So, but I do like recruiting. I think fundraising is one of those hats I wear and I have to always wear. And is it my favorite? No, but I do like engaging with the challenge of it and the alumni. So, but recruiting would probably be my favorite if I had to pick one. And besides being in the wrestling room and developing athletes. So
And you mentioned getting your heart broken more often than not sometimes. And with the transfer portal and all that being a thing now, do you keep the door open with those athletes and have any of those maybe heartbreaks come back across through the transport portal that you might have been able to reach back out to?
yeah, I think that's pretty common now with any college coach and any sport really is trying to you don't want to burn bridges and you want to make sure there's a relationship there if that kid enters the portal or hey maybe his teammate entered the portal, something like that. So you keep those good relationships the best you can and it works on both sides. Every college coach is going to have someone enter the portal. That's just the name of the game and that's the nature of our college athletics. So just trying to preach your vision and make sure kids understand where you're at as you stand as a coach. So, and giving them a great opportunity to be successful. So, yeah, it's a dynamic coming into this job at Edinboro where, you didn't you knew how to coach wrestling, you knew how to train guys and peak guys, but sometimes coming into a new program, and I think I hit this head job as a coming into the evolution of what the portal is and how to work with it with a smaller school. So definitely a challenge, but definitely something I'm learning and trying to figure out how to use my advantage the best I can and police it and make sure you're keeping the guys on your roster happy as well.
Have you been able to capitalize from it at all?
Um, I would say I look forward to capitalizing on it. Yeah, I mean, I have gotten kids that have been impact and have helped, but have I had any extreme success with it of getting a kid to the nationals and then getting on the podium? Not yet, but I do feel like there's an environment for me to foster, some quality transfers in the near future, hopefully this spring. So we'll see how it is. It's weird because you kind of like, you really buy into that recruiting process, kids coming out of high school. But now it's, I think every program around the country is March 13th, the portal opens, and some people are anxious. Some people are, dreading it based upon, oh, this guy's going into it. And other people are like, hey, who's going to be in the portal? I'm up. I'm gonna be driving to their house and saying hi to them. First person to, go have coffee at whatever institution they are with them. So uh, I'm excited for that too. So.
Coach, who do the fans of Airey Bros Radio need to keep an eye out on going into the postseason?
I would say, we're definitely down. Like I'm my biggest critic, and I want to just, the Edinboro standard is high, and I want to be very transparent that we got guys that are fighting hard, and we want them to be successful. But we got a few guys like freshmen like Brody Evans at 184. He's a freshman and he fights hard, and the kid's got a great future. I'm excited for him. We got a kid named Jack Kilner at 197. Probably one of the most disciplined, hardworking kids I know. I've been around. He's an Army ROTC future lieutenant, and he's just very very dedicated, very focused kid, and we're hoping that he can make some noise in the postseason heading into the MAC conference championships this weekend. We got a kid named Jacob Brenneman down at 141, true freshman as well, fighting through some adversity and learning how to be a college wrestling. So I'm hoping he can throw some upsets this weekend and spell some trouble for some of these top seeded guys. I got a lot of hardworking kids. We just got to get them, find them success, and I think it's going to come. I believe in hard work, and I think eventually your fruits of your labor will show.
So you bring up being your hardest critic, and a lot of times in this sport, people have the mindset of, oh, next year when we have this or that, we're gonna be good, or next year. How do you focus on the now when it's not going your way, but keep the kids focused and give them those little learning lessons, or take qualities in those little wins, whether they might not win a match, but they might keep it close, or they might not give up a pin or something like that. Are those what you're looking for right now and keeping you going through the season?
Yeah, I mean that is definitely something that I've, you know, tried to find the positives in everything, and making sure the guys, they don't, they need to know that I believe in them, and it is hard. I mean, I've come from a lot of success here at Edinboro, with my, Tim Flynn leading the troops and learning everything from that guy. And even though I was at Kent, I had several Americans, coached a national champ. So losing is not in my pedigree and what I'm used to. So you got to kind of redefine your coaching style, for the moment you're in, and understand that there is a bigger picture. Even if this kid that you have in your lineup isn't what you thought you'd be there, he's still your guy. He's a product of what you've been doing with the program. So, and communicating with your kids that, hey, this isn't about now. Sometimes it's about where you're going and your progression towards the future, and making sure they understand you love them and you care about them. And is there tough love? Is there some disappointment and some anger? Yeah, but I would say that's part of caring about your athletes, and trying to push them to be the best version of themselves.
I appreciate that perspective. Thank you.
Yeah.
Coach, with the practice schedule and everything like that, we've talked to some coaches that keep that traditional sort of, between two to four, or three to five type of practice. We have some other people that have kind of flipped the script and are doing more things in the morning. What's a regular routine, middle of the season kind of practice schedule look for like for you guys?
We do have that traditional feel. Did throw in a different uh this different Tuesday, Thursdays, we have 11 o'clock practice. And it's nice. We get a different feel, different time of the day. A lot of these kids are gonna have tournaments that they wrestle at 10 and 11 o'clock in the morning. So it's definitely challenging sometimes with class scheduling, but we do have it blocked off so they don't miss classes or can make practice during that time. But yeah, we have that traditional. Plus, we mixed it up a little bit with these 11 o'clock practices. I don't know. You try to like, when things aren't going the way you want to change things up. And you're like, oh, we got to do it this way, or what's this school doing, or what's the difference, and is it the best thing, and consistency, and having that 3:30 3 o'clock practice start time. Is it the best? I think there's so many ways to look at it and so many different ways to train kids that the old way of Edinboro is that the way you be successful? I think there's a very good chance that's a great way to do it, but you gotta have the right type of kids. Do I have are kids can kids train the way that I trained from 2002 to 2007 and all the other great Edinboro wrestling teams? I think they can, but I think wrestling has evolved differently too, and you gotta be able to know your athletes, and you gotta be able to cater to what they need and make sure they're happy and they're in a place where they believe in what you're doing to them. So wrestling's always evolving. And I think most coaches will probably agree that like you gotta make sure you're keeping up with what the type of athlete, what kind of athlete is coming out of high school. So but yeah, we have those morning practices, our core practices at 11 a.m. on Tuesday, Thursdays currently. But the crazy thing is our administrator just told us at our last staff meeting we can't have any regular practices between 9 and we can't have full practices between 9 and 2 o'clock p.m. based upon the new scheduling system we have with Penn West coming up. So that's going to be something where we have figuring out what we need to do. So,
And talking about that evolution of the sport, what's maybe one thing that you did with your teammates that you don't do now with your kids, and on the flip side of that, maybe what's one thing that you do if it's not the same? What's one thing that you do with your guys that you wish you would have done when you were wrestling competitively?
so what my kids don't do now that we did, um, you know, I think I think when like I was in college, and I still think this. I don't know. This is a great question. Like, I remember being such a repetitious training mindset. Like, I had great partners like Matt King. His brother was NCAA champ here too, Jared King, and Matt was a couple-time All-American here. When I was a freshman, I came in and my dad told me to find the most dedicated, hardworking guy that's an upperclassman and just follow him around like a puppy dog. And that's what I did. Not a puppy dog, but I said, hey, I'll drill with you. Hey, I'll be up at 6 a.m. with you. And, having like that vision quest mindset and repetitions and hitting your attacks over and over again and being very dedicated towards your practice and your skill sets. And I think overall, I don't know if kids do that as much. I think they've gone into this evolution of like sparring and feel type wrestling and being able to flow through the wrestling, and I found a lot of great value in that, a lot like a great learning atmosphere with that type of skill sets, and getting into positions and working through them with your coach or your teammates and stuff like that, and pausing and going over what you need to accomplish in that. But I also believe that the repetitions and getting good at a few things is also very important. I guess it depends on the athlete. So I would say that's the case with some of it. And we try to put both of those aspects of learning into our athletes, I guess, here at Edinboro. So trying to find a good mixture of development.
And with the strength and conditioning stuff, is that something that you're involved with, or is it maybe like the assistants, or do you have the strength and conditioning coaches doing that?
Yeah, here at Edinboro, we kind of hands on with all that, and with our resources, we do have a full time strength coach, and they work with us directly, and we implement the lifts that he recommends, and my staff and myself are kind of running the lifts, and we, and I will say that has been a big difference maker in the evolution of wrestling too over the last 15 years. Is like strength coaches taking a whole nother side of the sport out of the hands of the coaches and making sure they, you know, have another voice and another perspective on being a total athlete. And those are important things. And wrestling is still wrestling. You still gotta have that mindset. You still have to be a tough kid, a competitor. But you know, that other 15 to 20% or 30%, depending on the athlete, of your strength training and your conditioning side of things, I would say it's evolved and it's became a new resource and a new advantage for certain schools that can afford or have a full-time strength coach just for the wrestling program. So is the old school Tim Flynn way of doing things with crazy circuits and kind of unscientific, not saying he was unscientific, but like move weight and get tired and wrestling strength mentality. Is there still a place for that? Heck yeah. I just think you just have to have the right environment and culture for that type of training. So
What's the in season look like? Are you guys still lifting during the season? Are you guys doing more CrossFit or circuit type stuff, Metcon stuff? Or are you guys still hitting the strength lifts and your core lifts?
for us, I think it's a little bit on the circuit side early in the week, lifting stuff. Depending on the schedule, do we have 2 weeks off? Do we have only 3 days? If we only have 3 or 4 days off between competitions, there's probably not much lifting going on at all. But yeah, like if we compete on a Saturday and our next competition is until Saturday, like kind of like a November type schedule, you get that Sunday night lift in, you get that Tuesday morning lift in with maybe a little bit higher reps, you know, health management type stuff where you're strengthening your joints and your ligaments and getting that wrestling strength foundation down too. So but most kids don't want to be hitting some hard circuits or heavyweight 2 or 3 days before they compete. So
Do you have any meatheads that I know you just said most kids don't, but do you have any meatheads that you got to keep out of the weight room or keep in check?
yeah, you have a few of those kids like they lifting's a very some kids take it real personal and they believe in their system and they had some kind of personal trainer back where they were from, and you got to kind of cater to that at times and make sure you understand their needs and wants, but just also let them know like, hey, we're doing things this way here at our program. So making sure they buy into what you're trying to preach. So but yeah, you got those kids that like just want to lift weights and not go get an extra drill in too, so there's a balance there as well. So
Definitely. Final four, Rich?
Yeah, Coach, before we get into the Final Four, is there anything about the program or Edinboro itself that we haven't touched on that you'd like to share with the guests?
um I think we hit a lot of the things, and I think that the overall thing that people should understand is, yes, the big schools, they got all the glamour and they got all the resources and they have the this is great, you guys do podcasts, with programs like mine, is there is still such a great value in the smaller mid-major schools that like you should be rooting for the small schools because yeah, we might not have success that those other schools have, but I'll tell you what, all the coaches that are in the same type of school that I'm at, they're working their butts off and they're doing triple or quadruple the work that these other coaches are. Nothing against those other coaches; they're in the environment they're in. They're working hard in other ways, but I would say definitely support the small schools, the Clarions, the Lock Havens, the the riders of the world, because they definitely need your help. So
Amen.
yeah.
Coach, first question I have for you. Are you a coffee drinker?
Yes, I drink a lot of coffee.
How do you brew it and how do you take it?
I like I have French press at my house. Grind fresh ground coffee. It varies for what I get during the holidays. So I get a lot of coffee for Christmas and Easter and whatever birthdays and stuff like that. But grind it up, throw the kettle, the teapot on, hot water, and make the French press. And um, so how I take it is usually just cream and nothing else. And then but like there's other times where I like it black too. So
So when you say cream, are you using heavy cream? Are you using half and half?
half and half, yeah, half and half. Not much flavor, but yeah.
You dark roast, medium roast, light roast, what anything?
I like dark roast. So when I set my grinder, I have this cool grinder. It's like light, fine or like thick, and I like putting my grinder at thin or no fine. So then like when it French press, it has like that like almost syrup, dark syrup at the bottom of it, and it's kind of like an espresso shot in a way. So
All right, right on.
I love
Respect.
coffee. So.
How many cups you drink in a day?
Oh, probably two in the morning and one midday, so three.
Is that midday at French press or you stopping somewhere?
No, it's kind of like a Keurig or something like that in the
All
office.
right.
Yeah, I mean, I should get my French press to the office. That'd be pretty cool. So,
Coach, do you have any daily practices or rituals that you do on a regular basis to show up as the strongest version of Matt Hill?
uh, well, I would say I do. I do. I don't meditate. I think I just do some breathing exercises every once in a while. And I think one of my big thing is, I mean, honestly, a lot of it is I spend a lot of time with my boys in the morning, so it's one of my favorite times of the day. Is my wife goes to work, and then I end up setting them off to school. So just taking them to school and dropping them off is one of my, favorite times of the day. And those times are going to go, they're going to come and go. So I'm trying to value those as best I can. So, um, I used to be a creature of habit. I think once I had kids and the responsibilities I have now, I kind of more just totally consuming what I do. So I like to just one of my favorite things is when the weather gets, I like to plant vegetables and flowers, and I actually like I grow a lot of pumpkins. So I'm a big pumpkin patch guy now. So I like that stuff.
Okay. And
Yeah.
piggyback off of that, too, outside of the room, do you have a favorite way to sweat and do the boys wrestle?
Yeah. So so the first one I was talking like sweat like workout, you mean?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah, I love a tread. I love getting on a treadmill and just going hard. So I do like running outside, but I love getting on a treadmill and getting 3, 4, 5 miles in, just going really hard. And then my boys do wrestle, but they my older ones I call it he's on a sabbatical year. He played basketball this season, so and he is on track to be back in the wrestling room. But the saying that he still practiced wrestling most of the season, he just went played basketball. He didn't do any competitions. That was my older one, and then my younger one, yeah, he wrestled most of the season. But we ended it a little bit earlier and wanted to just to keep him in a good mindset. So
Did it hurt your heart when your oldest said he wanted to play basketball?
it was funny when he first like his first practice. I was like just drop him off. I didn't like usually I walk him in and make sure like
Get out.
I was like out. So that was one thing. And then there was a small reel on Instagram I watched, and it was when Obi-Wan Kenobi was like when your son decides to play basketball, and it was that one scene from Star Wars, and it was like, "How could you do this to me? You were the chosen one." And it was very, I was like, that was kind of how I felt in a way, but it was, yeah, it was one of those things. I do get it. I understand the sport of wrestling, and it's not for everybody. So
Right on.
Coach,
yeah.
you brought up doing some breath work from time to time, and we've had a couple breath practitioners on the podcast. Do you have a preferred method of breath work?
Uh, you know, I was in grad school and I had this guy named Dr. Mitchell when I was at Kent State. It was a what was his class called? And he went he was such a spiritual guy, and I don't even think the class was really based upon any of that stuff, but he just really dived into the that book, The Secret, and gratitude, and then he did a lot of meditating practices, and a lot of it was I don't even like now. It's just I just take big breaths through my mouth, and then just big ones out the nose. But it I forget, it was like something with number seven. I used to do that a lot. But yeah, I couldn't give you a specific. I do a lot of like I like just going in the wrestling room and turning off the lights, and keeping it totally quiet, no technology or anything like that, and just giving yourself 10 minutes to unwind and get back to work. So.
If you're ever looking for some new breathing techniques, I suggest you take a look at one of our prior guests. He's got a YouTube channel. It's called Take a Deep Breath. He has all different sorts of breathing techniques on there, and a lot of, he'll walk you through them.
All right, I'll definitely take. What's it called?
Take a deep breath.
All right, nice.
Coach, what are you listening to right now? Music, podcasts, audiobooks? Are you reading anything?
Yeah, this this is a funny story. So we have a library here at Edinboro, just got redone. It was closed down for like 2 years, and one of my favorite things when I first got here was to go to the library with my boys and let them pick a book out, and then bring it home and take it back, kind of like old school, learning from a library. So we found the library finally got renovated and it's all open. And my my 7-year-old found a book, and it was I think it's called The Principles of Coaching. And he found it. He goes, "Here you go, Dad." So I was like, "Oh, you sending me a message?" So I did read some of that lately. I used to read a lot. When I strangely I was a big fan of zombies, and I love reading any kind of zombie book. I used to do that a lot. Um, I do like coaching books, and John Wooden and Nick Saban's books and stuff like that. And but I mean, over the last year or so, I've been kind of consumed where I do need to get back into that stuff. But music wise, uh, I like I like some, I'm a big Garth Brooks fan, so it's kind of like my go-to. And I listen to I try to stay current with my athletes, but so I do like Kid Cudi, like that type of stuff. When I was coming up, good old fashioned like 50 Cent and Eminem songs, when I was competing and stuff like that. So I still listen to that stuff every once in a while. So
We are definitely from the same generation, Coach.
yeah, yeah. No, but I would say my favorite artist would be like so. Yeah.
Who's controlling the aux cord in the wrestling room?
Well, I kind of have like a no cell phone policy in the wrestling room, so I usually have my phone hooked up, and I do accommodate to what they want. But yeah, they sometimes like there's I hate to say their music. It's not even like you can't even like have a good workout to it. So I just have to like put like a neutral, AC/DC. You put on a there's a song, if you guys, I don't know if you know it, and it's a I I ran into this song a long time ago with my brother-in-law down at the beach. It's called Snake Farm, and it's an interesting song, and I always put that on like just to bug the guys out. But if you guys have any extra time, YouTube Snake Farm, and it's a great song. So
Okay. All right. Check that out.
yeah.
Coach, last one we got for you. Do you have a guilty pleasure or guilty pleasures? Do you have a favorite donut shop in Erie? Do you prefer whiskey or craft beer? Maybe secretly you're a Swiftie?
Yeah, I would say, I'm a grown man, so I'll have a beer here and there. So I like a craft beer every once in a while. And uh, yeah, I would say just I'm not a Swiftie, but I would love to go to one of her concerts. So I'll admit that I watched those Netflix specials and I was like, heck yeah, I'll go to that concert. It looks like a really cool experience. So, um, but no, I like I think I like the outdoors. Me and my boys are getting into like we're gonna do a pack in, pack out trip this summer, like up in Allegheny National Forest somewhere. We're gonna do an in and out type thing. So sleep with what we have on our backs and come back the next day. So my wife's not gonna join us, but we'll definitely try it out. So
Nice. Little rite of passage for the young bucks.
yeah, we set some goals. We want to do a big part of the Appalachian Trail when they're teenagers. So this is the start of our journey. So
Awesome. Have you done any of it?
I have not, so it's kind of new to me.
Okay.
I have not done any of that stuff, so it's going to be a lot of we're slowly buying little pieces of gear, and grandmas and stuff are buying like our little tents and our backpacks, so we're getting there. So
Awesome. If you ever are looking for stuff or can't find stuff, there's a really cool site. It's called Garage Grown Gear.
hmm
And it has a lot of like lightweight, ultralight backpacking stuff for like through hiking and all that sort of stuff.
oh, nice. I'll have to see look into that.
Yeah.
Coach, it was an honor to speak with you tonight about the Edinboro wrestling program. Like I told you when we started the show, been a fan of the program since that flow video. So it was awesome to kind of get the inside track on what you got going on and to keep an eye on the team for the rest of the season and couple, the next seasons going forward. So really appreciate your time tonight. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was really good to, let you guys know what we're about and, expand the word of Edinburgh wrestling. So thanks for having me.
Yes, sir. Have a great night, coach, and good luck in the postseason. Go Fighting Scots.
I appreciate you guys. Have a good one.